Hi, this is Debra Schneider, and I'm here to talk about the employee perspective of what's going on with the new presidency and the Trump administration. The first thing that happened to me right after the election results was my phone was ringing off the hook, coming from employees who were very nervous about their future and what would happen to them, to their families, to their jobs. And I think the best answer I could have for them is nothing as of now. Let's think proactively and think responsibly of how to protect yourself with a change of environment, with a campaign that was aggressively against immigration, but yet what we're seeing with, as Laura had discussed, what the administration can actually impose and what we think will really happen in a professional work environment may be very different. So what will happen when your employees come to you and say, what does this mean for me? Well, the most important thing is to make sure that you maintain your employee status. So that may include having an excellent system to ensure that your employees checking their I-94 record when they come in and out of the country. So we make sure there weren't mistakes or errors made when they cross into the border. Make sure that we have timely filed extensions. Think strategically and plan ahead, not just for the next year, but maybe for the next 3 or 4 years, and looking at how can we help protect your employees. Looking at permanent residence, what you're also going to see is many employees coming to you who are here in non-immigrant status to want to seek how can they provide a more permanent status, such as seeking a green card. This is actually a very good opportunity for you to engage with your employees who are long-term workers to show that they're valued to your company and that you too want to be able to maintain their ability to continue to work for you in the future. It's going to change their lives, their families' lives, and give them more security to stay here in the United States. It's also an opportunity for those who already are permanent residents to start becoming U.S. citizens. A time to naturalize is a time for them to feel the utmost protection in America. They can't be deported. They're going to be able to sponsor other relatives in the United States and continue to be full engaged members of our community. Well, what we do feel could be an area of concern involves travel. What we have seen come out is an increase in this idea of a vetting process. With Rex Tillerson as charge of the Department of State, we do feel that there's someone who's very familiar with cross-border issues, but the directive is very, in my opinion, evident that they're looking to see how can they put a harsher imposition on those requesting entry. And this is going to likely entail those applying for visas from abroad. We've already seen an increase in administrative processing, and what that means is when your employee is applying, for example, for an H-1B visa abroad, they fill out the proper application, they have a prior approval notice from the Immigration Service, and yet when they request their visa, they may be issued a 221G letter and placed in what's called administrative processing, which is a security check clearance hold. What the reason behind it is, you almost never know. It could be a background check, it could be an employer check, it could be an education check, and I believe we're going to see an increase in this happening. What does that mean for you? Well, your employee could be on a 1-week business trip could turn into a month to 3 months outside the country. We saw this happen after 9/11 when there was a whole new vetting process, and the administrative's report is they want to see an increase in biometric visa processing at all consulates, including at U.S. border posts and land border posts, which you can imagine is going to cause increased delays at nearly every border entry into the United States and the ability to even get visa appointments abroad. What this also may mean is increased security checks for individuals from certain countries. Now, fortunately, there was a program called NSEERS, which was recently canceled, fortunately, by the Obama administration. But this was put in place after 9/11 with a great deal of fear about individuals from certain countries, particularly those from Muslim countries, which required a registration process. And this is something that the Trump administration has looked at imposing again, maybe not with the same term of NSEERS, but its withdrawal will make this more difficult. But I would not be surprised from individuals from countries with high Muslim populations or a history of terrorism are going to have a much higher vetting process than others. What we also may see is a heightened ground of scrutiny from the Customs and Border Protection. And this is the agency that actually allows people to physically enter the United States. And they have extreme discretion, meaning if your employee has the approved petition, they have their visa, they still have to be allowed entry into the United States. And these officers have full authority to say yes or no, sometimes without good cause. And that often means that your employee is lacking due process, they do not have the right to call counsel. You may not even be aware that they haven't been let into the United States until they've already been returned home. And what we often hear is people are placed into what we call secondary inspection. And this is where they may be waiting and questioned about who they work for, what do they do, what's their background, what countries have they visited. And when this happens, your employee is going to be very scared and very worried and may not want to travel again. So what we want to make sure you do is be aware of when your individuals are traveling. Have them have contact information of an attorney plus the HR at the company. Have them have a personal contact so people are aware if they didn't enter when they were supposed to, people are contacted so we can review that. And we can help them be comfortable in answering questions so they're more familiar with the process and aren't confused or nervous if they are put into this additional screening. The one category of immigrants and foreign nationals who are going to be at the highest risk are those with criminal records. I do believe that they are going to be an instant and an easy target. Right now, criminals, aliens, are not necessarily allowed in the United States either when they have been convicted of certain crimes. But I do believe this is going to be a much more expansive review, and the amount of discretion used to potentially parole people in may end. And I think we're going to see a much higher level of scrutiny. And this involves not only crimes in the U.S., but crimes anywhere in the world. I think if they increase biometrics, increase fingerprinting, and additional communication between countries, much more of this information is going to become evident and going to be much harder. So it is important to, before allowing employees to travel, to screen for criminal records because they're at the highest risk. So what do we do from a positive standpoint? And be aware of your rights. As Lon has discussed, employers have rights, and so do your employees. We still have a fantastic Constitution and rights of due process, and it's our job to uphold those and make sure we stand up for. If you have a proper visa, if you have family, you own a home, you have the right to be here, to feel comfortable to request those rights, not waive them. And continue to be a positive force for immigration. Your workforce is diverse and you've invested in them. And it's important to stand up and not let them feel vulnerable to what they may hear on the news or hear coming out of certain individuals in Congress or in power, and show that you support them. You support them as part of your team and part of your community. So be diligent, continue to support your workforce, and know that we all believe that everyone has the right to live, to work here, and foreign nationals greatly contribute to our society. And we, as your lawyers, are here to advocate and fight for the rights on your behalf. Thank you.